Hello students, I am Isha Mediratta. In today's video, we are going to discuss hysteresis curve, what is hysteresis loss, and we are also going to discuss about hard and soft magnetic materials. Now this is a classification of magnetic materials which is dependent upon the hysteresis curve. So let's start with hysteresis curve first. What is hysteresis? Hysteresis is a process which is known as lagging of magnetic induction or magnetic flux density B in a magnetic material with respect to cyclic variation of applied magnetic field H when the specimen is at a temperature below its Curie temperature is known as hysteresis. Now, why do we say that the temperature of the sample should be below Curie temperature? Because if it is above Curie temperature, it won't behave as a ferro or ferrimagnet, it will behave as a paramagnet. Because higher the temperature, higher is the possibility that dipoles get randomly oriented. So this is a process which will take place at a temperature which is below Curie temperature, where the material behaves as a perfect ferromagnet. Clear? So it is like how the magnetic induction is lagging with respect to variation of external magnetic field or the magnetic field strength. So let's understand hysteresis properly with the help of a diagram. So this diagram which you can see here is known as the hysteresis curve. I would just say that the hysteresis curve, it is P, Q, R, S, T, U, P. So this completely involves one full cycle of magnetization and demagnetization. So we'll understand how B lags with respect to applied H. So in this you can just see that positive X represents the positive direction of magnetic field, negative X represents the negative direction of applied field, positive Y is the positive direction of magnetic induction, and negative Y we have negative direction of magnetic induction, that is minus B. Let's start the explanation of the curve. So I will start with the point O. So if you start increasing the applied magnetic field 1 unit in positive X direction, the material will get magnetized and there would be a magnetic induction induced or magnetic flux density created in the positive Y direction. So 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit, one by one you get increase in magnetic induction. But just look at the point P. P is a point which is known as the forward saturation point. Now what happens at this point P? Just notice that the curve becomes stable. That means even if I increase the applied magnetic field, now there won't be any increase in magnetic induction. Means I will say that my material has reached its saturation magnetization. So P is a point which is known as the saturation magnetization point. Now we increase the applied magnetic field 1 by 1 unit by 1 unit. Now suppose we start decreasing it. So just notice that if you are decreasing the magnetic field, the curve is not following the straight path. It started as OACP, but now it is not following the same path. It will follow the path PQ. And just notice that exactly at the point Q, the value of H is 0. The applied field becomes 0, but there is some magnetization left in the material, which is denoted by OQ in the diagram. It is along the positive y-axis. What do you mean by this? This is known as the magnetization which has remained in the material even though the applied field is 0. So this magnetization is known as the remnant magnetization, or it is known as the residual magnetization. Now, if I want to demagnetize the material, what will I do? I will have to apply the magnetic field in opposite direction, that is along the negative X. So if I apply the magnetic field in reverse direction at point R, you can see that the magnetic induction has become 0. B has become 0. But to bring B to 0, to bring it down to 0, we had to apply H in reverse direction. So this value of H, which is OR as per the diagram, it is known as the coercive field which is required to demagnetize the material in the opposite direction. Now again continue the applied field further, you will get a point S which is known as the saturation point in the reverse direction. Clear? Again, if you start demagnetizing it, if you start applying the magnetic field again in towards the positive X direction, you can see that at point T, H has become 0, but OT is again known as remnant magnetization but in opposite direction. So now to again bring B to 0, we will have to apply a field OU that corresponds to HC. So according to the diagram, I can say OQ and OT are the two values of remnant magnetization. OQ is in positive direction, OU is in negative direction. Similarly, OR is one direction of coercive field and OU is the other direction of coercive field. So this is all about the hysteresis curve. Now, let's discuss what are the findings of hysteresis curve. What do we learn from this hysteresis curve? So at the point P, I say that B or the magnetic induction remains constant in spite of increase in applied magnetic field H. So even if you increase H beyond the point P, the magnetic induction is not going to increase. So I can say that the value of B at a point P is known as the saturation value and our sample is said to be in the saturated magnetization state. So no increase in magnetization further. Now, second point, I can say that when H becomes 0, magnetic induction is not become 0. Just try to recall the point OQ, right? So Q, at the point Q, H is 0, but the magnetic induction is not 0. That means there is some magnetization in the material left. And this residual value of magnetization, even when the value of H is 0, is known as residual magnetization, or you can say remnant magnetization, or you can say retentivity of the material. It has retained this value of magnetization. Clear? Let's see the next finding according to the hysteresis curve. So when the value of applied field is reversed and increased in opposite direction, at the point R, we see that magnetic induction becomes 0. So the value of H, which is required to completely demagnetize a material, it is known as the coercive field, or it is known as coercivity of the material. So this entire variation of B with respect to H, which has been traced along the path P, Q, R, S, T, U and P. So this forms a closed loop. It is known as one full cycle of magnetization and demagnetization, and this is the meaning of hysteresis curve. Now what do you mean by hysteresis loss? So hysteresis loss, I would say the area which is enclosed by the curve gives the energy loss per unit volume of the material per cycle, and this energy loss is in the form of heat. It occurs during one full cycle of magnetization and demagnetization in a ferromagnetic material. So this energy loss, because we have to apply the coercive field in the opposite direction, so extra energy is required and there is a loss of energy in the form of heat. And this loss of energy is known as hysteresis loss. Now for different ferromagnetic and ferrimagnetic materials, the hysteresis loop can vary in shape and size, both. That means the energy loss can be more or small, and depending upon this, we will classify the magnetic materials into a category called hard and soft magnetic materials. So let's start discussing what do you mean by these type of materials. Now, both the ferro and ferrimagnetic materials are classified as hard and soft depending upon the hysteresis characteristics. What hysteresis characteristic? Coercive field. Because the coercive field is a main parameter in deciding whether the magnetic material is a hard magnetic material or it is a soft magnetic material. So let's start with the classification. So we'll discuss soft magnetic materials first. What do you mean by a soft magnetic material? So these are the materials which are characterized by a small hysteresis area, easy domain wall movement in the presence of external magnetic field. So they have a very small hysteresis area and the easy domain wall movement, which can be seen in the following diagram. Just look at the diagram. The area of the curve is comparatively small, or I would say it is a narrow curve. These are the materials which can be easily magnetized and demagnetized because they have an easy domain wall movement, but they cannot be permanently magnetized. Now let's see some properties of soft magnetic materials. They have a low coercivity, they have a low remanent magnetization. Low coercivity because the area is small. You can also say the remanent magnetization is less, so easily with low coercive field they will get demagnetized. They have a low eddy current loss because of higher resistivity. Now eddy current loss can be, eddy current is generated due to the change in magnetic field, and if the resistivity is high, this current would be very small because eddy current is also in the form of heat. So due to higher resistivity, the eddy current is low. They have a low hysteresis energy loss due to small area. They have a high permeability and high susceptibility. Why do we say high permeability and high susceptibility? Because they can be easily magnetized and demagnetized. So if a material can be magnetized easily, that means it is allowing the external magnetic field to pass through it easily. So if the magnetic field applied to a material, if the material magnetizes easily, that means it has a higher permeability and susceptibility. Coming on to classification, so these materials are classified into metallic soft magnetic materials and ceramic soft magnetic materials. Some examples are new metals, which is a particular alloy of nickel, copper, chromium and iron. Then you have iron nickel and iron cobalt alloys. You have ferrites and garnets. Garnets are basically ceramic compounds. And lastly, you have iron and silicon alloys. Now, let's discuss some applications of soft magnetic materials. So, ferrites and garnets are used in microwave frequency ranges. Talking about iron nickel alloys, they are used for audio frequency applications. Iron silicon alloys are used in high power and low frequency applications. These are the materials which are used as core materials in the inductor coils and transformers. If you talk about ferrites and garnets, that is ceramic compounds, they have low eddy current losses and hence they can be used in isolators, gyrators and microwave applications. Next, you have soft magnetic materials can be used in digital computers, data processing circuits. They can also be used in TV transformers at radio frequencies. They can also be used as a magnetic storage device. And some of the soft magnetic materials, because they can be easily magnetized, they can also be used in the generation of low frequency ultrasonic waves, that is a specific kind of sound waves having a frequency which is greater than 20 kilohertz. So now we'll move on to the second category, that is hard magnetic materials. What are hard magnetic materials? They are characterized by a large hysteresis area, less mobile domain wall movement in the presence of magnetic field. So the domain wall movement is not free, so they are difficult to magnetize. This is how the hard magnetic materials can be shown. They have a very huge or a large hysteresis area, so obviously they'll be having more hysteresis loss. These are the materials which, they are difficult to magnetize because they have a less mobile domain wall movement and difficult to demagnetize also. But once you have magnetized the materials, they will behave as permanent magnets. Let's understand some properties of hard magnetic materials. So they have a high coercivity because the hysteresis curve is large. They have a high remanent magnetization because they are permanent magnets. They have a relatively low permeability and susceptibility. Why? Because the domain wall movement is less mobile. So they won't allow the external magnetic field to pass through them easily. They have a high energy product and power. Hysteresis loss is also high due to large hysteresis area, and they have a high eddy current loss due to low resistivity. So properties are just the opposite of soft magnetic materials. Coming on to the classification, so they are classified into metallic and ceramic compounds, and some examples of them are, the first one is alnico alloy, which is aluminium, nickel, copper. Then you have cobalt and iron, so alloy of all 5 compounds. Then you have tungsten steel and platinum cobalt. Then you have chromium steel, and lastly we have Cunico and Cunif alloys. Cunico means copper nickel cobalt and Cunif means copper nickel iron alloys. So very common examples of hard magnetic materials. And talking about their applications, so alloys of steel and tungsten, they are used in magnetic separators, loudspeakers, DC motors, magnetic detectors. They are used to make permanent magnets. And talking about carbon steel alloys, which are very good hard magnetic materials, they are used to make magnets for toys and measuring meters. So this was about the properties of hard and soft magnetic materials and their applications. So in today's video, we have seen what is hysteresis. We have understood in depth what is hysteresis curve, what all parameters we derive from hysteresis curve, and on the basis of hysteresis curve, the classification of magnetic materials, that is hard and soft magnetic materials. Hope you have understood all the topics I discussed today very well. Thank you.